Here's another very practical application for calligraphy. It's wedding invitations. And yes, it's conceivable to me that someone may want their wedding invitation done in Gothic, Old English. Perhaps they're doing a, sort of a Renaissance-themed wedding. When it comes to wedding invitations, there are a couple particular issues that you'll face right away. The first is you're going to do 100 of them or 150. And you probably aren't being paid enough. I'm assuming you're being paid here. You're not being paid enough to do a rough draft of every invitation and then try to trace it. Plus, because you're on an envelope, it gets a little bit difficult to see through that many layers of paper. So you want on an invitation to try to get it right the first time. There are a couple of things you can do. One is you could take any piece of paper and create guidelines on it. So with a ruler, with bold marks, you get the guidelines already drawn out. Got it? And that will work just fine. Pretend I'm measuring here, okay? Pretend I'm measuring very carefully. It looks pretty good. And that's one thing you can do. But as I said, depending on the particular stationery that the bride is using, seeing those lines through a couple layers of paper could be problematic. So let me give you another solution. Instead of tracing it all, don't trace. If you're doing invitations, then I know one thing that you have right at your fingertips, which is more envelopes. That's right. So you've got the one envelope that you're drawing on, the writing on, and then another envelope can be used. It serves a double purpose of keeps your hand, the oils from your hand, off the original envelope, of course. But you line up the edges like this. You see, I can see that that's straight. Then that line provides me a perfect straight edge that is horizontal edge for doing my lettering. Now, one other thing I'm going to point out. When you're doing invitations, you're doing a lot of them. If you can get away without using a dip pen, you'll be happier. This is a really good time to use either a felt tip calligraphy pen or a fountain pen. Now, a felt tip marker, the weak side, you've heard this already, the weak side of a felt tip marker is that the thin lines aren't quite as thin as you would like them to be. And the thin lines are so important to Gothic that I'm going to recommend, if you have the opportunity at all, get some kind of fountain pen. What do I mean by a fountain pen? Simply this. It's a pen that has the ink reservoir already built into it. This is a pen made by Pilot. It's called a parallel pen, and it's excellent for doing Gothic. So let's say we're addressing this envelope to Mr. and Mrs. Come down a little bit. There we go. Mr. and Mrs. And as you can see, doing 100 envelopes in Old English is going to take a while. So you are certainly going to charge more for these wedding invitations than you would for the invitations done, say, in Chancery or Unseal. Get it? So you're going to price yourself accordingly. Old English takes longer, therefore you're going to charge more. Mr. And that's enough of that. I'm not going to make you watch me do 17.5 minutes of calligraphy just to demonstrate. Thankfully, I already have an envelope already finished. So here's my finished invitation. Mr. and Mrs. D. Williams, 123 South Main Street, Anytown, USA. And of course, I've used the numbers, I've used punctuation, and I've been very careful to make sure that my lines are pretty close to straight. For me, the biggest hazard of doing invitations is typographical errors, because you're focused so much on lines and curves and straights and angles that it's so easy to make the wrong letter. So watch out for that. Make sure you have plenty of extra envelopes, because I hate to say this, you are going to make some mistakes. So have extra envelopes and have a great time doing those invitations. And man, I hope you're being paid. Go for it.